And just like that, another weekend has gone, and it is Monday. Hello, I'm Russ Kane. Welcome to the Midday Show. Difficult day today. A difficult day for some people, and clearly not a difficult day for many others. It's October the 7th. If that means nothing to you, then what I'm going to say next will be meaningless. But if October the 7th means something to you, then I think you'll get the point I'm going to make. 12 months ago was the worst massacre seen since many, many years. And I did a little litmus test this morning, a little test to see how the public react. Last week, towards the end of last week, I put a photo of my little dog, who's 15 and a half, that the grooming place had taken off her. 200 comments. Exploded. Just my dog. Exploded. And this morning I put up a comment about what happened on October the 7th. 1,300 people beheaded, raped, massacred, burnt alive. 3 comments. So think about it. My dog gets like 200 comments all over my social media and on Twitter and everywhere. It went mad. And you put something which is horrendous, and you get 3 comments. Tells you kind of everything you need to know. That's it. That's all I got to say on it. Sometimes you just despair. Talking of despair, would you like to drop your camera a little bit, Neil? Just drop your camera a fraction because we want to see your gorgeous face. You know him, you love him. He is the king of comedy within a 2.5 mile, I've reduced it, 2.5 mile radius of the Tolworth Tower. Neil Long, he is here.
I agree with what you say, by the way, what you say before you brought me on. And I think what it could be is there's a lot of people I know that don't watch the news and don't follow the negative stories anymore because it's too negative for them. So they will keep the light side of things. They will just keep the lighter side of things. So I can understand why that happened from that point of view, even though...
And I made a point, Longie, before we bring our guest on, I made a point of just trying to be lighthearted. I don't do political posts. I don't, because it's all a cesspit of shit and I can't be bothered. It's horrible. There's no point. And I don't do political posts because you're never going to change anybody's mind.
And people get very angry, even if you just express an opinion. I mean, once on Radio Jackie, all I said, it's good enough for Jehovah. No, all I said was, I liked Barack Obama as a statesman, as a person. Didn't even particularly know his policies. I'm not particularly savvy. And I got some really nasty emails just for saying that I liked the cut of someone's jib. It's unbelievable.
I'll tell you something that will astound you. And I don't know if you knew this. Both Neil and I, of course, were at Capital Radio for many, many years. I was on the breakfast show there for 20 years, and Neil was there for a very long time too.
I was there for 6 years, and I was never on the breakfast show.
No, that is true. All night long. And you will recall 9/11, when fanatics flew planes into the World Trade Center and to the Pentagon.
Yes, I do.
They're killing over 3,000 innocent people. And it's proved nothing, and it's changed nothing, effectively. And all that Chris Tarrant said was he couldn't believe the scenes of jubilation and dancing in the street in various cities in the Middle East.
Yep, I remember that.
That accompanied this horrific massacre. And the phone lines lit up. And I was talking to our producer, and we're still friends, the wonderful Annie O'Neill. And I said, yeah, I bet people were really upset. She said, no, Russ. People were complaining that Chris said they shouldn't be dancing in the streets. Now that's 21 years ago? No, 2021? 23 years ago. 2021. 23 years ago, people were phoning up Capital Radio. The switchboard was alight like a Christmas tree, saying, well, they should be dancing in this. Unbelievable. This has got nothing to do with geography. This has got nothing to do with religion. This is good versus evil.
Yeah, and I don't think it's certainly not something to be celebrated.
It's not something to be celebrated. And this is, I just don't understand it. But there we go, and I never will. So everybody who attended the march yesterday in Hyde Park in London, if you're watching all over the world, I know a lot of American viewers. Hyde Park's a big park in the middle of London, went off beautifully. No chanting, no wishing for death, nothing like that. Unlike the despicable hate march that the Mayor of London and the Metropolitan Police Chief still permits. It's disgusting. Were there arrests? All right. Enough, because I'm only going to get myself even more upset than I already am, and it changes nothing.
I was up in London on Saturday. I was seeing Book of Mormon with my girlfriend, which is fantastic, by the way. Have you seen it?
No.
Oh, if you want a Mickey take of religion, it's
I'd love to see it. I hear it's marvelous, and let me save you 2.5 hours of your life. Joker 2, Folie à Deux, avoid like the plague. Anyway, that's what I've got to say.
Doesn't interest me at all.
Diabolical.
Book of Mormon, if you like the South Park vibe, which, and I do mean it's rude, and I mean it's proper rude, but it's very, 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 very funny.
Very funny. Everyone says it's great.
Everyone
says it's great. Now we have a guest that I've been chit-chatting to on social media. I'm interested in what he has to say. So let's get our week going, because we've got a big week this week, of course.
Where's my hello, Francois?
Francois, we said hello. You please say hello to Neil, because he'll sulk. He'll sulk. You know what it's like. Ladies and gentlemen, Daniel Glyde is in the house.
Hello, Daniel Glyde. How are you, sir?
Hello, chaps. Yeah, I'm really well, thank you.
Welcome to the show, man.
Thank you.
Welcome. And may I thank you, Dan, for having perfect camera and perfect sound. Bravo. You have no idea how rare that is with our guests. Well done, you.
Oh, well, I'm delighted to have delivered on...
you can say nothing else. You don't need to say anything else.
That's the first step of positive masculinity, getting your camera angle right, man.
Got the camera right. Everything looking cool. Right. Dan, tell us about yourself and about life coaching for men, because it's interesting stuff.
So where shall I start? So
I
guess
the beginning.
Yeah, so my journey to getting here, to end up working with men and this philosophy I've developed and my coaching method, etc., started probably about 6 years ago when I burnt out. So I used to work for the BBC, which is probably why I arrived with such a good-looking camera shot and nice sound.
What were you doing at the defund the BBC sooner the better? What were you doing there at the BBC?
So I was working for most of it working for BBC Sports. I was there nearly 2 decades. I started off in news and current affairs, as you guys were alluding to earlier on. I found that very depressing, so I moved into sports broadcasting via sports news. I worked. You were talking about October the 7th earlier. I worked in BBC News during the last Israel-Lebanon war in 2006, and one of my jobs one evening there was cleansing the agency pictures. So the APTN and the other Reuters and those people have sent cameramen to the ground, and they're feeding back via satellite pictures from the war zone. So my job, 4 hours overnight, was to look at these pictures and make sure the ones that did make it on BBC One didn't have blown up body parts, dead children, that sort of thing in. 4 hours overnight.
Oh, God.
Wow.
Dear God.
And I thought to myself, this isn't quite what I thought it was going to be. This is not me telling people the truth and holding the powerful to account. And then 3 days later, I worked on the Madeleine McCann story.
Oh, my God.
With a reporter, who was the reporter, Robert Hall, I think. Fantastic guy who covered the story really well. But my editor put down a list of phone numbers in front of me on that shift of her family. So grandparents, uncles, aunties, what sort of wider family. Please give these people a call to get some new information, new lines. We need something for Robert here. And I at first I said no.
Yeah.
I was like, F off.
I think Neil's face is how we are all feeling at this anecdote.
2 days. 2 days after he disappeared. And again, I left that and I made those calls because I had to. And I left that shift and I thought, do you know what? News broadcasting isn't for me. I'm going to go and do sport and talk about England captains and watch football and
Yes.
get paid.
Wow.
So that's what I did. Made my way across to sport. My difficulty became really because my mindset was askew, right? So
can I just, Dan, can I just say one thing? Forgive me.
Yeah, of course.
Stop it, Graham. That's silly. I know everybody will possibly want to comment about the Madeleine McCann case. They are very litigious. Please don't. Keep it to yourself. If you want to send me a private message on any of my social media, feel free to do so. Do not put any comments about Madeleine McCann and your views on this show. They are highly litigious. Don't. Thank you. Daniel, stage
Excellent
is yours
point.
once more.
Yes.
Thank you,
moving
Daniel.
quickly on. Yeah.
Thank
So
you.
I mean, so my mindset was bad, Russ. So I prioritized that career above everything. I went through sort of stages of imposter syndrome and people pleasing. People pleasing got really bad.
I got to stop you. Got to stop you. Here you are. You see, this is very typical. It's so important what you're bringing up. So important. I knew you'd be a great guest.
Thank you.
There you are. You're doing serious jobs. You're doing serious work. You're clearly good at what you do. I've never met you before, about 10 minutes ago, but you're clearly good at what you do. And yet, like so many people I know who are at the top of their game, imposter syndrome, waiting for the tap on the shoulder to say, Daniel, what do you think you're doing? Why did you have it?
I think an element of self-doubt comes to us all when we're pushing ourselves outside our comfort zone and doing new things and new experiences. Yeah. I think that comes to us all. But my problem was self-worth. That was my problem. Like in the BBC, I looked around me and there are some tremendously talented, like world-class talented people. And I'm sat there going, bloody hell, do I really belong here amongst this lot? I didn't think I deserved it, Russ. If
wow.
In not consciously, subconsciously.
No. On a subtextual level, I get it.
It's interesting. It's interesting, isn't it? Because I hear the phrase imposter syndrome come up an awful lot, and I know exactly what you mean. I mean, I went to Capital where there were superstar DJs, and I felt it a bit as well. But back then, I didn't have the maturity to frame it in a particular way. Now. And I spoke to my daughter about this, and I said that if you're having new experiences, if you think about it this way, you're not an imposter. You're just having new experiences and learning from said experiences. And someone that's having new experiences, expansive experiences, is not an imposter. They're just a brave soul having new experiences. And to say you're an imposter, it's a bit like a young tree being an imposter because it's not a mighty oak yet. It's in a growth process. And I put that to my daughter, and she said, "That's really cheesy, Dad, but I actually like it. So thanks." I didn't have the maturity back in my 20s to do that. All I wanted to be was everyone's friend. If I thought Chris Tarrant didn't like me, I'll go home and probably lose sleep over it, which was ridiculous. You know what I mean? Back to you,
Dan. Let me ask you this. I'm just worried about if I put up Graham Pack's question. It's a legitimate question. I might in a second, Graham. Not ignoring it.
Once for him.
But it's not. Isn't it interesting that people who are absolutely crap at their jobs or talentless never suffer from but they think they're fantastic. And you look at them, you go, you're an idiot. How are you possibly doing this job and doing it really badly? And people like yourself, or like Neil, I've known Neil 35 years or more, who do a great bang up job, go, oh, I don't know if I'm good enough. It's extraordinary, isn't it?
And it is about self-worth. It certainly was for me, and that was the problem. You see, and again, Neil mentioned it there. Immaturity. I was only in my late 20s back in those days, and I didn't have that life experience to realize everybody there was an imposter. We were all winging it. We were all making up as we went along. None of us knew what we were doing. And despite the creative talent I was surrounded by, they were no better, worse, different.
And if it's a good group, if it's a good group of people that work together, then it can be the most incredible environment to be in, because you learn so much by osmosis. When it gets competitive and backbiting, that's where it gets difficult. But if it's a good environment, it can be one of the most fantastic experiences of your life.
Here's the thing, Neil. I was at Capital, as you know. It doesn't often come up on the show. It really doesn't. But I was there 20 years. Only of all the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people I dealt with and worked with, only one person tried to trip me up. One guy. I'm not going to say who it is. Not Chris. He was fantastic.
Do I know who it is?
Oh, you know exactly who it is.
You can tell me off air.
I will tell you later. And I thought, you little shit, why are you doing that? I'm no threat to you. Our paths don't cross. I'm not taking any work away from you. Why do that? Why?
It's weird, isn't it? And that's insecurity as well, I would say.
That issue would fall very much on the shoulders of that person, not yours.
Oh, yeah, it's their problem. And it was interesting you bring that up, actually, because this was another problem that I made for myself, and again, with my mindset. So I'm in the BBC, which is a very competitive environment. To be fair, it's also very collaborative. And like you, I've experienced the odd occasion where I've been deliberately tried to be tripped up or stitched up, but very, very rarely. But in my mind, I'm thinking, right, I've got to compete with all these people around me here for jobs, for opportunities. So I can't be friends with them, because then I can't, because in my mind, I can't compete with them. So here I am, I've got imposter syndrome. I'm feeling a bit out of place. I'm prioritizing my career above everything, above my relationships, above my own health and well-being, everything. So I'm people pleasing. I'm saying yes to everything. So I'm thinking that's how I get ahead. And I'm also holding all my colleagues at arm's length. So I'm not got any decent friendships. So my friendships outside of TV have no idea what it's like to work in TV and in the media, and working on social hours and the long shifts and everything we have to do and part with. And the people that do get it, I'm holding at arm's length. So of course I end up incredibly isolated, incredibly lonely, and incredibly mentally unwell. So I probably had a chronic anxiety disorder for about 10 years. And occasional bouts of depression, and I only know that now, looking back, fellas. At the time,
was it the burnout that woke you up? Because I had a burnout experience, exactly, and it's really interesting that sometimes it takes a real jolt to make us see what we're doing to ourselves. Because innocently, and I will definitely say innocently, but you were doing that to yourselves. We're all doing it to ourselves, and there are understandable reasons why you would do it, because the positive intention, you want to be popular, you want to be accepted, you wanted to get ahead. But I'm guessing now, as you've moved into the coaching, it begins from a place of, well, probably good self-worth, a good grounded sense of your own personhood, and then coming from there in the people you engage with, which I would imagine leads to greater success, certainly long term.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and that is what it's all about, self-awareness. Everything I use the word suffered loosely. Everything that I went through in those days was due to lack of self-awareness. And it was burnout. So about 6 years ago, mentally, physically, emotionally exhausted, massive panic attack one evening, sat on my doorstep. And that was the slap in the face I kind of needed.
Did that only happen? Dan, a couple of things. The comments coming in, some of them are coming in from America, by the way. Azadon Brown, just so you know, is one of the top people in the psychotherapeutic community. He's over in the northeastern United States. Dave Sleet is the CEO of ANA, a very important organization within this field. So you're resonating.
And Graham Pack's our resident comedian.
And resident naughty boy.
And like Dave used the word toxicity there. And toxicity is a good word. I mean, my relationship with my employer became toxic. And not necessarily was it their fault. It was my fault and my mindset and my lack of self-worth, right? So I'm in there knowing there's 1,000 people that will take my job tomorrow. So I'm constantly going above and beyond. I'm never saying no, because I'm thinking, if I say no, someone else is going
to say yes.
I knew people at Capital that wouldn't go on holiday because they were frightened they'd be replaced by the time they got back.
Yeah.
And that is insane.
Yeah. But
that's asking for burnout.
Yeah, the fear is real, and we all feel it, and particularly in an industry like broadcasting, because it is competitive, and particularly in sports broadcasting, because you can imagine so many people want to get into that. So I completely burnt myself out. So I realised that I was walking the wrong path. So
can I ask one question? Because
yeah,
you alluded to it, and by the way, this isn't the BBC. If you don't feel like answering the question, just go, Russ. Not interested. I don't want to talk about it. That's absolutely fine. There's no 3-line whip here. You said you were on your doorstep and you had a massive panic attack. Was it the one? Just the once?
Yeah.
How? And this sounds really weird, but I think it's very important for everybody watching and listening all over the world. How did it feel when
like
that
I was
hit
going
you?
to die? I thought I was going to die. That even crossed my mind. Sat there.
That's it.
I couldn't breathe. My heart felt like it was trying to leap out of my chest.
Yep.
My vision was closing in.
Christ.
And it literally went through my mind, what happens if my wife finds me on the doorstep in the morning? That crossed my mind because I thought I was having a heart attack. I thought, shit, I better try and find my phone.
Yeah.
Panic
attacks. It's interesting because panic attacks are not. They feel like you say you've articulated it beautifully. It literally feels like you're going to die. It feels terrifying.
You think you're having a heart? You really think you're having a heart attack?
But physiologically, they're pretty harmless. They don't feel it.
No,
but they are. No one's ever died from a panic attack.
Do me any long-term harm at all, and actually, it did me a lot of good. So as I'm then trying to find my phone and get my thoughts together, and think, right, trying to calm myself down to ring an ambulance. In that calming myself down, I calmed myself down. Anxiety attack gone. And I was like,
"Oh wow,
I'm okay. This is weird." So that was the slap in the face I needed, Neil, as you said earlier.
Was there also a realization that you had the internal tools to calm yourself down, and it's not something you were a victim of?
Not in that moment. No, it was just I'd for about half an hour afterwards. It was late in the evening. I went to bed afterwards. I just wondered what the hell had happened. I didn't know what. I still woke up the next day wondering if I'd had something go with my heart. And
the trick with panic attacks, even though it feels awful, is not to try and fight them. I believe it's just to almost turn into it, like they say in mindfulness, turn towards it, and then it will eventually.
When you lose control of your car, they say drive into the skid, don't they?
Oh, that's correct, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah, nice analogy. Yeah, but that's all very well discussing in the cold hard light of calm day now. But when you're actually going through it, it's not the easiest thing. Anyway, sorry, back to you.
Yeah, and it was completely by accident. It was because in my mind, I'm saying, right, get to a calm place so you can ring an ambulance and say, I'm having a heart attack. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to speak to them. And by doing that, sort of taking a couple of deep breaths into my belly, panic attack goes. But yeah, that was the catalyst. So that told me something wasn't right. So I turned my attention inwards at this point. And then 2018 was a really interesting year for me as I sort of reconnected with myself in lots of different ways. I realized that there was a lot more to me than just my thoughts and feelings in my mind. And that's where I then began to work on things like my self-awareness, my self-worth, my self-esteem, and to prioritize me, my needs, and my health. And what I realized is, after spending about a year, 18 months doing that, I kind of looked back and I thought, well, now, how did I get there? How did that happen? You know, because that was my dream job, working for BBC Sport.
Yes, there's the irony.
I wanted to work on Match of the Day. I've been watching it all my life. Wimbledon, Six Nations, these things I've been watching since I can remember. And I got to do that. And it was fantastic, absolutely amazing. I couldn't have asked for anything better. But yet here I was, getting a big message from life saying, you're walking the wrong path, sunshine. So a big part of that was my mindset, right? So I thought, well, then where did that mindset come from? This mindset to push on through, to keep people at arm's length, this confusing resilience for endurance, this people pleasing, this never asking for help, shouldering all my burdens, this burying how I felt because, and using short-term gratification to make me feel better in the moment, to ignoring my feelings. And I thought to myself, well, this, right, has come because I am a man. And this is what the culture has taught me being a man is all about. Being tough, being strong, pushing through, never asking for help.
Stiff upper lip.
No emotions. Emotions are woolly thinking and aren't any good to us, or, they mean we're up and down and not consistent. So yeah, never thought about how I felt, never put my attention on that. I thought I was quite emotionally intelligent, but when I look back now, I really was not. And yeah, I realized that it was the messages I've been sent since being young, and the belief system I therefore created because of it, about what a man was and who a man was, and what it was like, what success looked like. Success you chased at all costs, whether that was costs of your health or your relationships or all the things that really were important to you. That's what you did. So that occurred to me at that point, and then I thought, right, instead of sitting and bitching about this, I need to do something about it. Instead of pointing fingers and saying the culture's got this wrong and it's really bad, look at suicide rates, look at cardiovascular disease, and and I could go on about that all day. And then I thought, well, actually, no, you need to do something about this. So, so I already knew I was going to leave my job at the BBC. I made my mind up probably late 2018, early 2018 was I'd had the panic attack. And the weird thing was, fellas, and this taught me a lot too, the minute I let go of it all at the BBC, the minute I stopped chasing, the minute I stopped ducking and diving and pushing and going after things, everything I wanted in the last sort of 5 years before that came to me.
Plopped straight in your lap.
Stop there. Now, this is the teaching. This is the teachings of, you've probably heard about it. It's when the law of attraction teachings became popular, The Secret, movies like that.
Yeah.
And the whole message with that, even though it was all ridiculously commercially spun, like, shut your eyes and the Porsche will appear when you drive. But the key ethos to that message is don't struggle. Because if you struggle, you block what wants to coming because you're struggling. But the minute you can let go and approach things with ease rather than dis-ease, if I may, then it makes it so much easier. Right? Had to throw that in there.
Yeah,
easier said than done, though, isn't it?
It is. It absolutely is, and particularly when you're a man, because we are conditioned from year dot to struggle. We're supposed to struggle. We're the stronger, more physical gender. So therefore, get out there and struggle. When you want something, get out there, grind, hustle, work for it. That's how you get it. So that's what I did. And that's why I got burnt out.
Kill the beast and bring it home. Yeah.
And The Secret, funnily enough, was one of the books I read really early on in that year of 2018 that opened my eyes to a new way of seeing the world, right? And you're right, it's very basic, and people often think manifestation means you sit and meditate all day and wake up and there's a Ferrari on the drive. That's not how it works. But what I let go, so I let go of all these ideas of outcomes, all these attachments I had to things I've been chasing for a long time, opportunities and promotions, and I let go of it all. I stopped caring, and I stopped people pleasing. I had strong boundaries. I started saying no to things because I was prioritizing my relationships and my health first, because I now understood this is what I valued. This is what my life was all about, not what flipping job I did, not how much money I had in the bank. My health, my well-being, what condition was I in? Where was my self-respect, my self-worth, my self-esteem? If it's not A1, then we need to do some work on that. So that's where my focus was just getting myself in a place where I wanted to be, my health where I wanted it to be, and my well-being where I wanted it to be, reconnecting with myself emotionally and spiritually. And so while I did that and totally let go.
What book was it you read, by the way? Do you mind?
Well, I've read tons of books.
You said there was one. There was one you read.
The Secret I read. The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle changed my life.
Classic.
Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by Dr. Joe Dispenza. That also changed my life. That was a fantastic book. What others did I read in that time? I mean, I've read so many. Yeah. If I think of any more, I'll chuck them in, fellas. But
please do.
I think you've read pretty much everything I have as well.
Fearless Intelligence by Michael Benner. That was another one. Michael Benner really helped me. So he's like us, actually, guys. He's an old radio DJ who lives in LA and is now very heavily into spirituality and personal development. And I also had a few one-on-one sessions and calls with him, as well as reading his book.
What's his name? Michael
Benner, Benner. He's worth looking up. He runs a thing called the Ageless Wisdom Mystery School, and it's wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Anyway, so
Scooby-Doo.
It sounds it, but it's not. It's but yeah, so yeah, I let go of everything, and then it all came to me. So I got promoted twice. I got to direct live FA Cup matches. I got to direct live rugby league matches. I got to direct television programs on BBC One, which was fantastic. So I stayed at the BBC.
So hang on, sorry, this is just so fascinating. We talk about this so much on the show. Just want to round this point now. So by letting go, you still kept the job, but you got to enjoy it, and you got what you wanted easily in that competitive environment.
The way I was seen by the rest of the department completely changed because I stopped people pleasing, because I started putting myself first.
Yeah,
everyone else saw me as more valuable too. Everybody else, and the way I was treated completely changed. Suddenly, after 10 years in the department, I was being taken seriously. Suddenly, people were talking about me. The higher ups were talking about me, were giving me opportunities, were putting me forward for things. This had never happened in my career. When I was chasing and hustling and grinding and attaching, this never, ever happened.
Interesting.
So I stayed there probably longer than would have done. And it was lockdown that came when that came along, and sports broadcasting stopped for 3 to 4 months, didn't it? That gave me a load of time to stop and think. And me and my wife signed up for a thing called Lifebook during that time, which was like a group coaching thing where basically you looked at the 12 areas of your life.
Lifebook, is that from Mind Valley by any chance?
It is. So John and Missy Butcher. Yeah.
John and Missy Butcher. I know it well.
Yeah. So we signed up for that. That changed the trajectory of our lives forever, right? So we'd always had this retirement plan where we were going to, so we used to live in Yorkshire near a place called Guiseley in between Leeds and Bradford. And we always had this retirement plan of buying one of those old York stone cottages with a couple of acres of land and growing our own food.
Nice.
When we did Lifebook and we realized we wanted to be sustainable, we wanted to be self-sufficient, we wanted to have less impact on the planet and have more positive impact on the planet, we said, well, sod it. Why don't we do that now? What are we waiting for? So from that point on, the plan began to build this life of self-sufficiency and sustainability. And not long after that, the BBC offered voluntary redundancy because they needed to make cuts during COVID. So because I'd been there quite a long time, I got quite a decent amount of money from the license payer for that, which was very welcome.
You're welcome.
And I spent all that money. I invested it in myself. So that when you take voluntary redundancy, they do a really nice package to BBC to smooth your transition out of it is kind of good life for the 21st century, Graham. it is a bit like that, but I live in Scotland now, not Yorkshire. Anyway, I'll come to that. I've lost my track now. Where was I?
So you invested all that money in yourself from your volunteers.
And you were thinking, let's do this now. Stone Cottage.
Yeah, so the BBC, they give you this really wonderful package for when you take voluntary and any sort of redundancy, I imagine. But I only took voluntary, so I wouldn't know about when you're compulsory. But I imagine it's the same thing. So I got some counselling because when they confirmed it, my identity was so wrapped up in working for BBC Sport, I had a real wobble. A real wobble. I was like, I'm not Dan Glyde, BBC Sport. Who am I? So that was really useful. But the most useful thing was they gave me this guy. I can't remember his name now. Mike, somebody or other, who was supposed to be a career coach to help me transition out of a full-time job and into whatever I was going to do next.
Okay.
And he was so much more than a career coach. Now, he really helped me look at my value system and my belief system. And so ostensibly as to look at the next step. But boy, was this life-changing stuff. The belief system especially, suddenly I realized here I've got this system that's running in my unconscious mind that's directing where my focus and where my attention goes, is directing what I believe. It's creating my reality effectively. And I had no awareness of it. And I'd created it.
Let me ask. So the reality that was being created, Matrix or whatever, wasn't the actual reality of your life. Am I getting that right?
So we only have our own reality. We all see the world as we are. We don't see the world as it is. And so that belief system, that's the lens through which we see life. We see the world.
And sometimes we don't realize it's our belief. We think it's the way the world is.
Yeah, we think it's fact. And all those facts are just thoughts we've had that we've never questioned. And our belief system is actually mainly created when we're too young to discern. So in our formative years. So mainly we take it on from our parents, from our education.
Downloaded.
Yeah,
it's interesting, the belief system could stand for BS as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm going to use that.
You're welcome. You can have that one.
Yeah, it can.
Copyright 2024, Neil Longie Long.
Yeah, and so this really woke me up. Here's this system that's running, that's effectively creating my reality for me. I've created it completely unconsciously, but I can change it. And that's what I did effectively without realizing in my BBC career. By prioritizing myself instead of what I was doing, I was changing my belief system. I was changing.
How do you go about changing beliefs that are so ingrained that they seem real and you don't even know that you've got them? It seems like a gargantuan task. So where do you even begin?
Yeah. Well, awareness is always stage one. That's
sure.
step one of anything. So the exercise I do with my clients to get at their beliefs, there's several we do, but one of the really powerful ones, and this is what I did with this career coach, was he sat down and said, right, Dan, you mapped out where do you want to go? So we looked at the next couple of years, and he said, now what's stopping you? Now this is the powerful thing, right? Because this is where I'm now bringing out the beliefs. Oh, I can't do this. I'm not the sort of person who did this. I am not this, that, or the other.
Yeah.
So these are barriers, self-imposed limits. And he was the first person ever in my life to challenge those things, to make me look at them and say, is that really true? Is that really true? And often there are 3 or 4 real core beliefs that we hold that shape everything. They tend to be things like, I'm not good enough, or I am not enough, or I am not the sort of person who does this, that, or the other. And they're what really keep us stuck. And I'd realized that some of the beliefs I'd held are what had kept me stuck. And a lot of the beliefs I'd taken on, again, were cultural things about what it is to be a man. So I came out of I left my full-time role at the BBC. I carried on as a freelancer and worked for other broadcasters too. And in the meantime, I'm trying to work out what can I do to stop, to do something about what I could see in front of me happening to men. I just looked around me. I saw it happen to my dad. I see it happening to my friends and my family. And, they're all running themselves into the floor, killing themselves in some cases, because their mental health is so bad. They've got no idea that it's bad. They think stress and anxiety is normal.
Or even good, desirable, to keep us on our toes.
Yeah, even stress can even be seen as desirable. That's it. I've talked to a lot of blokes since I've been doing this who think it's what drives them. And that is crazy.
There is such thing as positive stress called eustress, as obviously you know.
Of course.
But that's not the kind of stress we're talking about here.
No, we're talking about chronic
negative stress.
Yeah, but negative stress, self-imposed pressure, I guess, is what it is, really. And again, that's as men trying to achieve this status that we're all told we should get, and the respect we're all told we should get, and by having the nice house and the nice car and going on the nice holidays, and it's worth sacrificing everything to get that. It's hustle, it's grind. That's how it works, right? Wrong. So yeah, and I thought, now what can I do about this? And then of course I thought back to the 2 things I'd done that changed my life in recent times: Life Book, which effectively is a group coaching thing, and the coaching I got off the career coach. And I thought, well, maybe this is what I want to do, coaching, right? So yeah, I went away and learned and trained. I trained with an Australian company, bizarrely, a guy called Calvin Coyles, who's a bit of a used car salesman, but he was brilliant for me at the time. He was really good in teaching me how
that's counterintuitive, but okay.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm probably being unfair to the guy. He's actually very good, but his neuro-linguistic programming, which was the really important thing that he taught me. But what I realized is that because I'd stepped up into leadership roles then at the BBC, I realised I already was a coach. That's how I led people, by throwing things back to them always, by empowering them, by asking questions, not by telling people what to do. I was always very collaborative, and I did a lot of mentoring in my last couple of years at the BBC too. And I realised then from doing that, I had some coaching type skills I developed. So then I spent probably a good year or so training myself up. In the meantime, we were enacting the plan to be self-sufficient and sustainable. And we found the property where I live now, in a place called the Yarrow Valley in the south of Scotland. I'm up in the hills, 1,400 foot above sea level. I've got 12
with great internet access.
Oh, we've got fibre. It's amazing.
This is what's making me laugh. You're like, I'm hearing like he's in the middle of nowhere. Probably the nearest neighbour's 28 miles away, and he's got perfect internet.
Yeah. So, and what we had before that, actually, so we've always had great internet here. Fibre came at the start of this year. But the year before, we're surrounded by forestry land, and they help pay to have mobile phone masts put up around the area. So we've got 2 in our valley, one at that end and one at that end. So we actually get a good 4G signal as well. And because there's nobody else here, we're the only people using it. So even before we got fibre, I had pretty good broadband just on the 4G signal, which is quite remarkable, bearing in mind how remote we are. We really are in the middle of nowhere here. But yeah, so
how does that feel? Being in the middle of nowhere.
I absolutely love it, but it wouldn't be for everybody. But I spend my whole day talking to people, mainly online, but I also get out and about quite a lot. I go to networking things in Edinburgh and surrounding areas. So, I mean, it's good because it forces me to get out and go and talk to people. We're not too far from civilization. We're only 25 minutes from the nearest town. It takes a bit of getting used to. Your deliveries never turn up on time, and you have to be quite organised. You can't just nip up the shops for a pint of milk. So we have a chest freezer full of bread and milk and all the staples.
The amount of people I talk to, they say they would love something like that.
Oh, we absolutely adore it.
Well, we're all exhausted. We're all
one of the things I realised was I had to cut out the noise in my life. My head was just so full of noise. I needed somewhere peaceful and tranquil to continue this self-development journey. It also means I'm a better coach because I've got time, I've got space to work on myself, to work on my mindset, to work on my self-awareness, to constantly improve what it is I do.
How do you do that? How do you work on yourself? I find a lot of personal development, particularly NLP. It's very easy to do on other people because I was trained in NLP, but very hard to do on yourself. How do you do it?
So in lots of different ways. Mindfulness is something I use all day, every day. So I'm constantly trying to get out of my head and thinking mode and into my body and sensing and feeling mode.
Being mode,
Can you explain that? Because I don't study NLP. I am the opposite of Neil, even though I've known him 35 years plus. Opposite of you. How do you do that?
So NLP is about talking directly.
We know what NLP is, but what I'm saying is getting into very familiar with that and read the books. Explain how you get out of your thinking mode and into your whatever the phrase.
So literally, so mindfulness is noticing what you notice. So literally by doing that. So I'll go out into my valley.
No, Kimmy, it won't. I'm sorry, Kimmy. No, it won't. Going off sick won't solve your problems. No, absolutely not.
No, changing your mindset is what will solve your problem. Self-awareness is what will solve your problem.
There you go. Listen to Daniel, Kimmy.
So getting into sensing and feeling mode is by noticing what I notice, using the 5 senses. What can I see? What can I hear? What can I smell? What can I taste even? And then once I've done that, then ask myself, how do I feel? Is there any tension in my body? Can I feel tension in my body? Is there something
that brings you back to what's going on in the present moment?
Exactly.
And the trick is not to try and change everything. It's just noticing, isn't it?
Yeah, because your thoughts, your mind loves to go to the past because that's what it knows, because it's already experienced that. So it loves to go to the past or worry about the future. That's the other thing our mind likes to do. 2 things that don't exist. All that exists is now. So mindfulness, as Neil says, that brings you into the present moment and brings your attention into your body. So you can start understanding how you feel. We all have a an innate, inner guidance system, a conscience. We have intuition. But when we're stuck up here, neurosing about the past or worrying about the future, we're not getting those messages. We're not hearing our guidance system, which is telling us what's right and wrong, which is telling us the path to take, and which is
and we do that at our peril, because eventually that will lead to burnout, won't it?
Yeah, and then that's exactly what had happened to me during my career. I was so busy, always in future. Right, what do I need to do?
Yeah.
Past, what have I fucked up? Where do I need to improve?
I don't know what that is. Sorry, I have no idea. Right,
sorry.
Dan, let me ask you this, because
Yes.
I'm sure a lot of people are struggling a bit. All right, so you're doing a piece of work and your mind's flying to, I shouldn't have done that, and I'm worried about what's happening in the future, and look at my mistakes in the past. I get that. It's not constructive. Doesn't help.
No.
So you say, right, how am I feeling? You're using your five senses. Then what? And
I'm following
with
my
intellect.
guide.
I understand what you're saying. I just want to know the mechanics of what happens next.
So when I do that, the other thing I might do is remind myself what my core values are. So I carry them around on my phone.
Oh,
so my core values, the things I care about most in the world, the things I prioritize above all else, are love, service, freedom, fun, honesty. So when I'm in that nice present moment space, I'll check in with those values. Am I getting those things in my life? How can I get more of that in my life? How can I prioritize more of that in my life? And I literally ask myself those questions. And when I'm not all stuck in my head, I'll get answers to them in feelings. So I'll either feel good or bad, or and basically your feelings and your emotions, your feelings particularly, come from one of two places. They're either love, and they're expansive thoughts and feelings, or fear. And that imposter syndrome we were talking about earlier, that's fear. That's what, and fear is, it contracts you. It makes you want to be safe. It makes you want to play small. Whereas love is expansive. It makes you want to be bold. It makes you want to collaborate. It makes you want to create. And they're very different things. So that's when
and the love-based one is a lot more abundant as well.
Exactly.
It teaches you there's plenty to go around for everyone, where fear is more everyone's like little islands trying to grasp their bit before everyone else gets it.
Yeah, scarcity and lack is fear, isn't it? And and that's what creates all of the world's problems, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I heard a lovely way of putting it. Do you want to live in scarcity or do abundance? I heard that somewhere. You can have that one as well.
Yeah, love that. So now I work on guys to help them do Russ loves that one. So I help on guys to get into that abundance mindset, to start to understand themselves, to understand their core values, to understand how to be mindful, how to slow their thoughts down, how to be more in the present moment, how to prioritize themselves, their health, their relationships over material success. Because the guys I work with tend to be business owners and leaders, or they're very driven. They're very on the outside, they look very successful, but on the inside, they're miserable, or they're they're frustrated, or they feel a bit stuck. They know they're meant for something a bit more than what's been happening. And this transition normally happens in midlife, sort of 35 plus.
But you don't lose out at any point on the material stuff. If anything, from what you said, you got what you wanted a lot more easily.
Yeah. So it's a myth that success has to come through sacrifice. That's a myth. And
it is a myth. It's also a myth that success leads to happiness.
When you listen to
that depends how you define success, doesn't it?
Well, you see, when you listen to the success stories of people who are hugely successful, I mean, monstrously successful, always it's hard work with a dollop of luck.
Yeah,
it is sacrifice. It is putting whatever their business career, whatever it might be, at the forefront. And I'm talking about, you could be a Formula One racing driver, you could run a jewelry chain like Gerald Ratner. I mean, all of these things require a huge amount of effort.
And it's interesting.
The
'cause I
effort
think
can't be taken away from. I mean, I think it's important to say, this isn't going to happen like
Bold action
magic.
what brings success.
It's not going to happen by. And the
No,
other thing is, Dan, and
it's
I'm sure
alignment. That's what it's about.
I'm sure you'll agree with this. You've got to have the talent as well. You can't just wish this and be centered and mindful if you haven't got the talent to do it.
Yeah, and again, that's about self-awareness, and understanding who you are and what your strengths and weaknesses are.
Correct.
We're all uniquely gifted and talented. The universe loves to create things uniquely. Every blade of grass, every raindrop, every snowflake is unique, and so is every human being. We all have something to bring to the table. But unless we spend a bit of time being mindful with ourselves, understanding ourselves, what drives us, things like our belief system and our value system, which I've touched upon here, unless we understand those things, and we don't really know what we're for. So many of the guys I work with have ended up where they are by default because they learned something from their parents or so they happened to do it at university because it seemed like fun at the time. They created a business based on that. They got into this mindset of, as you were saying there, Russ, of which you can as a youngster, doing hard work, putting lots of hours in, prioritizing it, which you must not do at the expense of yourself. Let me tell you that. And no successful person who lives to tell the tale has done that. So that they end up somewhere they didn't want to be. They've sort of gradually veered away from who they are with their choices and their decisions because they're not aware of their. I keep pointing here as if that's where your unconscious is, not aware of their values.
I think also that some of the most uber successful people in the world are embracing these principles now.
And they're very self-aware people, yeah.
Arianna Huffington springs to mind, Huffington Post, and you read her autobiography, and she did exactly the same. She was working, burnt out, and it took her having a fall and doing her body in to wake her up, to make her rethink. And now, like yourself, she's just, if not more successful, but you could call it happy success. It's happy successful, not this sort of success by struggle and sacrifice or default, like you said. And also, I think I read somewhere, I'm 80% sure this is true, that sacrifice, the root of the word, when it used properly, the etymology of it means make sacred. In other words, your value system. It doesn't mean like killing things or killing yourself, if you know what I mean. Sacrifice, really, in the true sense. So you could say that it does involve sacrifice when the word is used properly. In other words, what are your values? Are you living your values? What are you making sacred?
Yeah, and that's exactly right. And that is, for me, that's the key to life. That's what changed my life. That's why I've been able to transform it, by making those things sacred and then setting up habits and routines in order that I can do that on autopilot, in order that I can make my values and my beliefs sacred on autopilot. So
because we do a lot on autopilot, this is the point of mindfulness, to wake us up from that autopilot mode.
Yeah.
But autopilot is useful. It just depends what we're doing on autopilot.
Yeah, exactly that. And it means you can do things without having to think about them. So I have a morning routine, an evening routine. I have non-negotiable things I do every day, and I just do them without thinking about it.
And what would they be? What would those be?
So my morning routine, let me take you through that. So I wake up at 6:30. First thing I do is take my dog for a walk. So I get out in the fresh air and I get moving, and that's come what may, whatever the weather. I'm out 6:30 with my dog walking. That wakes me up. During my dog walk, I have affirmations that I repeat to myself out loud. And the good thing is nobody lives here, so nobody's going, who's that mental bloke there telling himself how much?
But the trees know.
Every day, in every way, I am better and better.
So that's what I do. Then I come in from the dog walk, and then I think it was Liz.
And your wife says, "Wipe your shoes, for God's sake! Look what you're bringing in."
So we've got a robot Hoover, so she doesn't nag me too much about that.
Wow.
Cool. And so I come in, so I get in about 7 from the dog walk. That's when I meditate. Liz Saw asked me if meditation was part of what I do. Absolutely it is. And during that meditation practice,
my eyesight, I thought Liz had asked you, do you use medication? I know Liz, and I thought it's a bit rude.
but again, they're the same root word. It comes from the Greek Midday, which means to heal. Medicate and meditate. The medi bit means to heal. It's true, isn't it?
So,
yeah, interesting as well, isn't it? Well, language is so interesting. We could do another show.
Oh, there's a lot of clever stuff in our language, definitely.
Just based on words, couldn't we?
let's. So you meditate for how long?
Half an hour, and during that, so what I do is it starts as mindfulness. So I start with breathing to get nice and connected and grounded in my body. Then I practice compassion. So what I do is I hold in my heart somebody that I love. So normally my wife or my dog or whoever comes into my mind, and I can feel that love in my heart. Then
in no particular order, Dan.
I project that no particular order.
Okay.
So I project that outwards. That first of all, just to my house, then to my locality, then to the country.
What does
and then
that
to the world.
mean? I'm serious because I'm fascinated. I don't understand what that means.
I visualize. I turn that feeling into a color, and I visualize painting everything with that color. So it starts with my house, then my town. Not that I have a town, but my local area. Then my country, then the world, and then I say a little prayer.
So essentially, what you're doing, you're expanding your energy field. Because I've got a teacher that teaches me this.
Yeah,
you're expanding your energy field, aren't you? And
yes, I'm raising my vibration.
Right, that's what I was going to say next. You're raising your vibration. Yes,
I'm lost here, gang.
And then I'm projecting that higher vibration.
I'm completely
lost. Also,
lost.
you're a lot more open to be able to receive the insights much more easily if you've got an expanded energy field rather than the contracted fearful one.
That's my compassion practice. Then I practice gratitude. So I think of 3 reasons to be grateful for who I am, 3 reasons to be grateful for my life, and 3 reasons to be grateful for my business. That's my gratitude practice, and I feel it. I'm not thinking this stuff. I'm feeling it. This is what's important, and viscerally feeling it. As if it's happening.
How do you discern between your thinking and your feeling? How does that?
Thinking is in the mind, feeling is in the body. So, and the difficulty is thoughts drive feelings. So sometimes we do feel our thoughts, but feeling is in the heart, is in the solar plexus. Thinking is up here. It's an energy. Thinking is an energy that we create. It's really hard to explain.
It is. I'm drowning here.
You feel it in the body.
Neil's getting it, and I'm drowning.
So then I practice gratitude. Then I practice forgiveness. I bring someone to mind or a circumstance that's happened that I feel like I need to forgive, and then I practice forgiveness. And again, this is all about raising my vibration and setting me up for the day.
What is this? You and Neil were like 2 bosom buddies there. Explain. I don't understand.
Everything is energy.
What does that mean?
Everything is energy.
I get that. Okay.
So an energy is vibration. So we are energy. We are vibration. So again, it's love and fear. They're the 2 polarities of human energy. Fear is at the bottom and is contracted energy when we're in survival mode, when we're, as Neil said earlier on, that lack mindset, that's fear, that's low vibrational energy. You can feel it. You can feel heavy when you can literally.
Get that.
It feels heavy, it feels dense. It doesn't feel good. A good rule of thumb is nothing is more important than feeling good.
Yeah. So a higher vibration is love. That's what we're all aiming for as human beings, is that higher vibration of love. Yeah. So things like practicing compassion, gratitude, forgiveness, they're taking me to a place of love. And another good word, enlightened. So, there's a people who often talk about a path to enlightenment, don't they? And that's literally, you feel lighter when you're vibrating and you're in that higher vibration. Life feels easier instead of feeling like you're wading through treacle.
And notice the word struggle hasn't been used at any point in this morning practice, or in this daily practice. That
There's no stress or no struggle. Anything,
no struggle at all.
Nothing that will affect my peace of mind. Nothing.
Yeah. If it was meant to be difficult, it would be called enheavyment, not enlightenment.
I'll tell you what,
forgiveness.
Daniel Glyde.
Really important. Can I just get this in, Russ? Creative visualization. So not worrying, not neurosing about the future, creatively visualizing the result I want and emotionally putting myself through.
I do that all the time.
That's my life.
I do that all the time.
3 to 5 years plus my day. So I visualize my day like I visualized this morning, Russ. I visualized that I wanted it to be a great chat, that I wanted to be able to get across
you go. You see, you fell at the first fence. Now, Daniel Glyde, listen up, fella. I've enjoyed this enormously, and I'll tell you how much I've enjoyed this. Because in about 10 minutes, I've got a meeting with my podcast partner. And I would like to invite you to come on my weekly podcast called Walk the Talk, The Hero's Journey. And the basis, we've done 61 episodes, and the basis of Walk the Talk, The Hero's Journey is to look at people. Gerald Ratner, I've got Earl Spencer coming on early next year as well, is to take people whose life has gone and they've crawled out of the wreckage and reconstructed themselves. And people are going, yeah, I can learn from that. Not everything, but I can take bits of that. So I'm inviting you now publicly, if you'd like to come on my podcast, because he will go. You think Neil's a fan of Dan Glyde? Wait till you meet Mark Collin. The two of you probably get run off.
Oh,
and get
he's
married.
Great. There's also a chap that I get podcasts for. He does a brilliant podcast called Men on Show, and I've just told him about you while we've been on air, and he may get in touch because I think he might be looking for a guest. He may do, I don't know, but you are definitely the right. He will like the cut of your jib for his podcast. I'm fairly convinced of that.
Thank you very much. That's very kind.
We get you on that. I found this absolutely. I'll be honest with you. I found this absolutely fascinating. I'm always very frank. I don't BS, and some of it I struggle with to understand.
Sure.
I'm not poo-pooing it at all. I'm not being rude or sarcastic. I struggle with it. Neil is much more in tune. I'm using the word.
I understand it, but actually doing it are two different things. So you've given me a bit of a caring, compassionate kick up the backside, Daniel.
You've had a kick up the. I knew he was doing that, and because I know you so well, you're thinking, sure, I should be doing that. Why? Yeah, that's it. I'll tell you one thing about you, Dan Glyde, because I said I only met you at like 10 to 12. I've never met you before in my life, right? We've had a few emails. You radiate a certain energy that I really like.
Thank you.
You do. You radiate this. I can't quite articulate it.
A good vibration.
Well, yeah, I don't want to get all California surf buddy here, but I mean, what
it's
I'm
not
saying.
California surf buddy. It's
no,
science.
it's joking, Neil. What I'm saying is you radiate this a lovely positive energy. There we go, Neil. That's what I mean. It's nice.
Yeah, and that takes work. I'm in this enlightened place. Like Graham has asked a question there.
Yes, this is an important question. Could you answer that, and then we must go.
So if I don't do that, I get overwhelmed, I get anxious, I get stressed, my vibration pulls down, I get into survival mode, not thriving mode. I start coming at things from a lack mindset and a scarcity mindset, and my life just generally does not work as I would like it to. When I practice those things.
Please don't encourage him, Dan. Don't, please.
I can only apologise, Daniel.
I'm so sorry.
I'm going to treat that with the contempt it deserved and just move.
Quite rightly so.
Wow, Graham, you've been told, boy.
On a daily basis, my life happens for me, not to me. I am not a victim of circumstance. I'm the master of my destiny. And that is why I practice those things, because I get to live in this beautiful valley. I've created this wonderful life for myself where I grow my own fruit and veg. I've got my own water supply. I've got no neighbors. And it's bloody wonderful. And I did that because I manifested it by visualizing what I wanted, not by hustle and grind and sacrificing my own health and my relationships.
I can't think of a better way and a better point in which to end the show.
Brilliant. Great message, Daniel. Great message. Yeah. Thank you so much for being on. Really enjoyed talking to you.
Thanks for inviting me. I've had great fun, guys. You've been really.
Yeah, it's been all the very best with everything, Daniel. I hope I'll pass on again.
Bravo, you. I will be seeing you again. It's not a threat. That's just a promise. I'm not manifesting anything terrible. I'm not going to start stalking you in an anonymous valley in the middle of Scotland.
It's quite a long way to go if you get a stalk, Russ, to be honest with you.
Well,
you could pick something a bit more local like London if you must.
Chaps, it's
ladies and gentlemen, the comedy stylings of Neil Longie Long. Don't forget the Midnight
so much
Show.
For having me on, Russ. Thank you.
Oh, our pleasure. All right, Neil, you've got Wednesday.
Can I just very quickly plug Wednesday? Wednesday, talking
Daniel,
to
we'll say goodbye. Bless
all the best, Dan. Hope I pass across again. Wednesday, talking to Joe Farr. Phure, Joe Four, or what we pronounce Joe Four, or maybe Joe Four if you like. She's
Let's
a comedian.
establish the first name is Joe. We can move on from there.
Yeah.
That'll work.
She's got a comedy show in Faversham this Sunday. She's heard some of my silly songs, so I'm going to be a part of it, doing 3 songs in her comedy show. And we're going to be talking all things comedy, her journey into comedy and the mindset behind comedy. And we touch on well-being, and she's going to be great. And she's a great girl. And we'll have a chat with her on Wednesday. I'll see you then.
If you need another guest, let me know, because I'm being pushed, and it's quite an interesting subject, but it's heavy.
I'm good at the moment, unless you.
All I'm saying, fella, is a heavy guest, and I might take the 2 of us to deal with it, to be honest, because I don't know them, but the subject is freaking heavy.
Maybe best for a Monday then, maybe.
And this, ladies and gentlemen, the thing about life, the key of life is timing. Sorry, Dan, says Jason Ingham. Just managed to see you saying goodbye. Sure,
and that ends the seminar. That ends our
seminar on keeping a diary.
How to have the best sex ever. Sorry you missed it. No playback.
Yeah. Neil Long makes me laugh, like a few other people do. Bye, everybody. Neil will be back on Wednesday. Take care.
I look forward to it. Take care.
Bye, gang.
Russ, stay there for a minute. I want to ask you something off air.
Uh-oh. Okay. I don't know.